It's that time. It's time to figure out what has Bitcoin been up to in the last 24 hours. Well, as of yesterday, we were somewhere around here. Okay, so this is where we were yesterday. And today, we're here. So we're going to be looking at our trades, see how they performed. We're going to be taking a look at the global market structure, and we're going to be planning what comes next. Remember, trading is all about preparation. You plan your trade and you trade your plan. So let's get straight into it. Bitcoin is currently at a fair price of 726. All right. So it's slowly simmering down, isn't it? We're not in the 70s anymore. We're slowly simmering down. We've had our 4-hour uptrend. We've had that transition in market structure, and we seem to be printing consecutive 4-hour lower highs and lower lows. As you can see, we've transitioned from the green market structure, higher highs and high lows, to the red market structure, lower highs and lower lows. So what areas were we interested in and why? What was the narrative we had as of yesterday? Well, as of yesterday, we realized that Bitcoin has entered a nice little range. Okay, we had our bigger range over here, we had a smaller range over here in red, and we had our mini range over here, okay, in this shaded region. And we said these are the only range plays you need to be looking out for. We had, range idea number one, range idea number one. These are simply sweeps of your range extremes, okay? So you form a prior high and then you sweep that prior high. Very simple. And then you had your internal plays based off of reaction off of supply and demand zone, whichever comes first. But yesterday we were saying something interesting. We talked about this trade, we talked about this sweep of this prior low, this pump fake / SFP, whatever you want to call it. And then we said, right, well, the same thing happened up here. We had a range that cascaded into another range, okay? Range, break, range. All right, Bitcoin loves to do that. Range, break, range. So what we had here is we had this distribution over here. Bitcoin set a high, okay, came down, retested a high, swept it at this 4-hour supply, which was the initiation of that play, and it resulted in us having this rotation down. But we did say, I entered this trade, I'm currently in this trade, and I'm going to move my stop loss to profit, and I'm going to see how that plays on. But just have a look at that quickly. That trade, it was a decent trade, not the best, but it was a decent trade. It did mark down, and for that trade we did get some decent profits out of that one. Let's see if we can. There we go. Okay, so that's the trade. Crazy leverage. I wouldn't recommend 50x, especially if you're just starting, but that's the trade. All right, about 223%. Anyway, back to where we were. So we were saying, right, we have this range over here. But for this range, we did say, right, we would expect this distribution model. We have tap 1, tap 2, and a low over here, which means it's a model 2, a Wyckoff model 2 distribution. We expected this distribution to break structure, but it didn't. It did not break structure. Look at that. Instead, it started to accumulate. Started to distribute to accumulate. And this was kind of scary, kind of worrying, especially if I was in a short, because I was in a short from up here. So I was thinking, right, is this accumulation going to allow us to go further up, rally up, rather than rally down? All right. But I held the trade, and it paid out. The patience paid out. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at what happened. We're going to use the bar replay tool. So we were around here. We'll go on a 12-minute. And we had this play. And price, this is where I started to get a bit worried, especially because we had a sweep of another low, which suggests, we had some bullish action over there. But it wasn't long-lived. And as a result, we came down. Okay, so we came down, and that meant that trade was profitable. Well, where did we come down to? Well, we're coming down to our zone number 2, a 4-hour demand zone. We have this 4-hour demand zone that we've been waiting for. We've said earlier that this is the only demand zone that's stopping Bitcoin from dropping rapidly. Okay, and we can take a look. This is the only demand left before Bitcoin comes all the way down to this level. It's the only obstacle, all right? It's the only thing stopping it. So we said this is a powerful zone, and it's a high probable zone, and we're likely to get a reaction off the zone. So today I was watching this zone, and price came nicely into our zone. We can trace that and see how price came into it. So we had a lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. Do we have a change in market structure break yet? No. Is there a reason to enter this trade yet? No. So we're waiting. And as we were waiting, as I was watching this, by the way, I do leave a comment on some of these setups from time to time when I've got time during the day. I said, we're at this 4-hour zone, but this rally down is quite aggressive. I am waiting for a market structure change before touching along here. And if we accumulate here in a range, I will look to enter on the second entry, aka a liquidity sweep of the prior low. All right, so let's see what happened. So again, we're waiting for this market structure change. It doesn't quite happen, but there is a chance we enter a range and sweep that, prior low. What does that really mean? I'm sure some of you are thinking, well, what are you talking about? Well, if we imagine this is our zone, and if we think of this as price coming into our zone, as price comes into our zone, it usually leaves a first tap of that zone, okay? And then it might play around. It won't quite break structure. See, this structure hasn't been broken yet, all right? It's not going to break structure, but it might rally up, internally break structure, okay? And then come back and sweep that prior low. What do I mean by sweep that prior low? If we say our initial low was there, the sweep of the prior low would be if we take out that level, doing something like this. You can see the second low is lower than the first. It swept these stop losses, giving it the fuel to carry on. Okay, so that's what I was talking about. For those of you who are new here or new to trading, who don't quite understand what that means. So what we've got here is we've got our downtrend. So let's see how this plays out. So if we continue playing this, all right, we see we set, a lower high, we set another lower low, okay, still on this downtrend, and now I'm starting to think, it seems like we're breaking past this zone. If we're going to do anything, if this market structure change is going to happen, it has to happen now. It has to happen now. All right, so what happens next? Okay, so look what happens next. So we've set that low. Okay, at this point, I'm going to make sure I draw that low so I know where that low is. And then what's going to happen is internally, we come up. We don't quite break structure, because for our break of structure, we need to take this, lower high out. That's going to be the break of structure. We don't break structure yet. And then you see what happens? We take out that prior low. And what happens next? Bang. That's what happens next. And what is market cipher doing? The number one indicator. It's showing us a clear sign. We've got price going down, momentum going up. And look at this beautiful curvature of money flow. All right, that's nice. That is nice and juicy. That's nice and round. Look at that positive gradient. That means money is coming into the asset. Okay. So this was, that second scenario we're looking at. We swept that prior low, and that gave us the juice to move up. So we did react off this zone. This 4-hour zone we've been watching, we have gotten a reaction. Bearing in mind, this whole thing now is a range. We have a range here, okay? We have our break of structure that took place here. Why is that our break of structure? Well, this is no longer the last lower high. This becomes the last lower high, okay? Because we have more structure developed. And after that, we've had our break of structure bullishly. Okay, so I'm just going to show you that break of structure so that we can see clearly what's going on. We're going to do that in green to suggest it's going up. So we've broken structure. So that trade, I didn't enter on this one, so I won't tell you I entered if I didn't. I didn't enter the trade there simply because I had a tenant coming to view one of my houses, and man, he wasn't pleased. So I had to rush down to have a chat with him. So I wasn't on the charts, but anyways, you know, life goes on. Now we sweep up. What do we expect after a sweep up though? After a sweep up, you know, Bitcoin is nice. Bitcoin is not just going to let the trade go and not even give you another entry. Bitcoin usually, and most assets and anything you trade, be it Forex, crypto, bonds, blah, 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 you know, it's going to give you a retracement. Where do you expect that retracement? You can expect that retracement off the old range. So let's see if we get a retracement. Now, price breaks out, and there we have it. That retracement comes back. And that retracement, it kind of reacts off our last demand over here, last internal demand, and it reacts off the top of our 4-hour zone. Okay, now there is a chance. Oh, by the way, this is exactly where I entered the trade. So I entered the trade off of that retracement. So I entered the long around there. Okay, and I am still in that one. I'm in that long at the moment, and we're going to see how it does. Now, there is a chance. I am well aware that we may get a deeper retracement. Why is that? Especially because this, like I said, this is old demand. Especially because this hasn't been taken out yet. There is a chance we come back, you know, to see what's inside here. There's a chance price comes back to see what's inside there. All right, but I've entered a trade at the moment, and that trade I'm watching it closely to see, you know, if it's going to play out. You know, if I see signs that it's not going to play out, if we don't take out this high in the next move, I'm out of that trade. Simple as. Okay. So why could price come all the way down here is the question. Well, the first reason is this. Well, look at that. We have a 5-minute zone over there. Okay, if we go higher, I'm sure we've got more zones over there. Okay, we've got a 5-minute zone over there. Let's see on the 15-minute, do we have a reason to come back? On the 30-minute, do we have a reason to come back? 45 minutes, okay, we do not have a reason to come back. But on the 5, we do have a reason to come back. Okay, this is a single bar demand zone. So price could possibly play around, come back down, sweep that level, break structure again, and then carry on. Okay, so price could do that. So that's something you need to be aware of. But that's it for that trade, and that's it for the trade. And I'm sure lots and lots of traders that trade using this style are looking at. Okay, so let's get rid of that now. Where does that leave us? In terms of our local structure, well, that leaves us, what's happened? What Bitcoin has ranged, is broken out of the range. You know, there is a chance we come back to test this range. Remember, what happens after you break out of range? You're going to retest it. So there is a chance, because if we look on a 4-hour, we can see that we clearly have our range. It's not very clear here. We've broken down from the range. We've tagged this demand. There is a chance we come back into that range before we go further down. All right. But you have to ask yourself, why is Bitcoin changing structure here? Why is it changing structure bullishly? Well, is it changing structure bullishly just to set out that lower high? Or is it changing structure bullishly because it wants to go back and retest those all-time highs? Is that what it's doing? Now, don't forget, the all-time highs are all the way up here at 74,029. Now, if this change in structure that Bitcoin is currently showing us, if this change in structure is to retest those all-time highs, that will be amazing. Why would that be amazing? That'll be amazing because it allows us to enter an even juicier short, a second entry short, a sweep of liquidity short. Now we've got our first level, and we play around, come back up, second level, and we come down. That would be a beautiful short. Okay, so is that potentially what Bitcoin has in mind? Now, in order for that to happen, before we have dreams of coming back up to the all-time high, before we have those dreams, Bitcoin needs to do some work. It needs to do some work. What does it need to do? First of all, it needs to break this lower high. This level needs to go. If this level doesn't go, this level is not going. All right, so we need to break above that level. All right, the chances are if we do break above that level, we're probably headed back up there, because that means on a 4 hour, you have changed market structure once again bullishly. You've gone from printing lower lows and lower highs to higher highs and high lows. All right, so remember, market structure is number one. It's king. Now, if we are to break structure on the 4 hour, well, I will be looking up here for my next trade, for my next short position right up there. Okay, and I'll be looking to see what Bitcoin does there. Does it change market structure there? If it does, I'll be entering that trade. All right, but right now we're looking over here. We'll see what happens. Now, what are the obstacles? I'm going to get rid of this range for now. What are the obstacles stopping Bitcoin in the way? Well, Bitcoin has left its footprints once again. It's left a 4 hour zone. It's got a 4 hour zone. We can see this is the last up bar before this flush, before this institutional volume. Okay, so this zone is another point for contention. It's quite a strategically placed zone, if you ask me, because it's bang in the middle of our old range. It's in a nice level to get a decent lower high, so we could get something like this, and it's kind of the decisional level before we decide whether we're going to take out this 4 hour structure, whether we're going to break structure bullishly. So that's one to watch for. In the case that we do close above that zone, well, then we can look to take that out and take all-time highs once again. Okay, so that's what Bitcoin's been up to. So in terms of our levels, what we're looking out for, we're looking to see how this trade plays out. We're looking to see if we're going to get a reaction off our 4 hour zone. All right, but bearing in mind, be careful. That reaction off the 4 hour zone, is a pivotal one, because it may mean this is another lower high for some more further downward action. All right, but that's what we're looking for at the moment. Now, I know this does look really confusing, and we've got lots of setups over here, so I'm going to tidy this up soon. I'm going to tidy this up. I'm going to get rid of this. We don't need this at the moment. Okay, still need that. Guess we need that. These two are kind of one idea, to be honest. It's one idea, so I'm going to put them together. All right, so that's what we have at the minute. All right, and I'm going to send a picture of this just so everyone has this. Now, in terms of our liquidity, we can see that now, Bitcoin it's kind of disrupted that, so we can get rid of that. All right, but nonetheless, we still have this trending liquidity downwards over here. Okay, so in the case that we do break through this supply zone, that would also mean we've broken this trend line. And if we break that trend line, you could look for a retest off that trend line, boom, for a long up. All right, so I'm not going to put that on there because we don't need it just yet. All right, well, so there we have it. That's all we're looking for in terms of the rest of the week, and I will be presenting this in a picture form so you guys can have a look. By the way, as I say, every now and then I do leave comments on here on these videos. Feel free to also add comments. If you have any questions, feel free to pop them in there. If any of these do not make sense, feel free to ask a question. I'm sure if I'm not there to help, I'm sure someone else watching the video will. All right, now let me leave you guys with a thought, some food for thought. All right, so as of, let's see if we can find it. Let's see if we can find it before our video ends. Got 29 seconds. Can we do it? Can we do it? Got 23 seconds. We've got 20 seconds. All right, I'm just going to go straight into it. Well, like I said last week, we are watching this level, so make sure on a monthly to see whether we are closing above this level. We've had downward action, which means we may not be closing above this level. All right, so keep an eye on this level.